All right, so we're making some great progress. Let's go ahead and create this middle section here, or rather this featured section is what we're going to call it. Let's start by adding this stylized text that looks really good here at the top. So with that being said, let's take a look at our own and see what we have to work with and go back into brackets. So we need to start by going to our index, or rather our home page, and we're finally going to be moving outside of our top section main. So if we select that div, we can see how far it runs down, but we're still going to stay within our main container here. So we're going to go between these two divs, and we're going to create our own new div, and we'll do a so what's it going to be? This is going to be a very unique. We're only going to have one of these. So is it a class or is it an ID? Correct. It is a ID, and let's go ahead and we'll call this, since this is the featured section at the top, let's just call this feature section, and we'll close that div off. We'll give it a little bit of a space so we can add some content in between, and we're going to add an H1 tag here. And let's go back and copy that text from here. So the awesome is an amazing blah blah blah. Pause and write this if you need to. I'm going to copy and paste this in to our H1. So let's go back to brackets. Go ahead and paste it. Control save. Open our new page up and take a look. Okay, perfect. So awesome is an amazing landing page. Now, right now, you're currently probably seeing a black background here. So before this little video, I actually went back into my style.css. Go all the way to the top and make sure that you change your body background color from black, which it currently was, to white. So pound FFFFFF, or you can do white. But make sure you change that or you're not going to be able to see the dark text, and we need the background color white. So let's go back to our Safari, and obviously this looks terrible. It looks nothing like this. Let's take a look at what we need to change. One, we need to make the width about 70% of the actual width of the browser. We need to make the font a lot thinner, the font a lot bigger, no, about the same size. Then we need to add this little Udemy highlight here. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Back into brackets. Let's go ahead and start styling. Oh, and we'll notice really quickly that we need a big space, almost 100 pixels in between our background image up here and this actual image here. Ours is right along the top here. So let's go back in and let's start styling. If you recall, we named our, let's see what we named it, feature section. So let's give that feature section here, which is an ID, so pound feature section, and let's give that a padding at the top, 100 pixels. Let me just make sure that takes into effect. Okay, there we go. So now we have that space we need, and we can go ahead and give this H1 some styling. So let's go back to our index.html, and let's make sure we actually have a class for this H1. So I'm going to do a space after the H1 and add a class. Let's call this class, let's call it feature section, and then we'll just call it title. And I know that's a lot to swallow, but it's very specific. So let's go ahead, save that, go back to our style.css, and what we can do is we can actually highlight this and copy it so we don't misspell it, and we'll create a new style. This is a class, so not a hashtag, but a period in front of it. Let's open our brackets and let's begin styling this. So first things first, we need to make sure that the width we said was about 70%. So let's take the width and let's make that 70% because we don't want this running the entire width of our browser. We also want to center this, so text align center. Great, that's perfect. We wanted to make it a lot thinner as far as the font goes, so we're going to take the font weight all the way down, and we're going to make that, let's do 200. Great. Let's go ahead and save that. Take a look. Okay, so that's awesome. It looks a lot better, but we will notice two things. One, this isn't centered. And if we look here, we notice that there's more space in between the two lines, which is easy, and we can fix that with our line height. So in order to do that, in order to fix those two things, let's do line height, And let's change this to 1.5 EM. And that's going to give us a little bit, almost just half as much line height. And we also need to center that. And we just need to, of course, change our margin to auto because we have a set width. So that's going to automatically create a margin on the left and the right side. And from there, we ought to notice that we have our text centered and it's looking good. Now we just need to create the Udemy green overlay here. Let's take a look. So we need a green overlay over the Udemy. Shouldn't be too tough. We can actually add a span class right there. So let's go back into our index.html. Let's find the Udemy text here, and we're going to give this a span. So what we can do is we can go to outside, select span, and rather than creating a separate style, let's just do this style inline. So we're going to do it directly here. So we'll do span space style, and it's going to open this up. And we need to give this a background color. And that background color is going to be, let me see, I wrote this down somewhere. Here it is, 6DC77A. And make sure you finish that statement with your semicolon. And let's go ahead and, we're going to need to change the color as well. So change the color to pound FFFFFF because we need that to be white. There we go. Let's make sure we close this here, and then it's automatically going to close our span tag. So copy that and move that to the end of the Udemy. There we go. Let's control save. Take a look. Okay, cool. So we have that highlighted. I think there's a little bit of a difference here. Let's add a little bit of a padding to that, just so it stands out a little more. I'm going to go back in here right after the color, and let's just give this a padding of 2 pixels. Now this is going to be so subtle, you guys might not even notice it, but it just made that green a little bit bigger. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and create these 3 little almost blog-like sections. So let's keep going.